Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Himes, joined by my friend Bob Stewart on a really special episode today. Bob, how you doing?
Chad, I'm good, buddy. I'm glad to be here. How are you?
I'm glad to have you here.
We're wrapping the Well series up, right?
Yeah, we're kind of messing everybody up out there because they're tuning in this morning thinking they're getting the next episode of the Well series, and we're fooling them. This is something a little different.
Okay. I love it. I love a good curveball, Chad.
I know you do. And folks, stick with us because it's worth it, even though you just heard this isn't part of the Well series. Because Bob, Win, Make, Give is not just about the Well series. We are about what? What is Win, Make, Give all about?
Health, wealth, leadership, and legacy.
Okay. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about it. And I was like, okay, who's one person that everybody knows? I don't care if it's your kids in the back seat listening right now. I don't care if it's the adults listening to this. Everybody knows the person I wanted to talk about today. And this person is health, leadership,
Absolutely.
And has definitely created and will leave a legacy behind.
Yeah. And I feel like along the way, he's probably amassed a little bit of wealth too.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Bob, I want to talk about this person. I'm going to give you a little background on who he is. And I don't think we need to keep it a surprise. If they read the headline, they probably realize who it is already, right? What's your favorite quote? And do it because everybody does an impersonation of this guy. Everybody, give me yours in your best voice.
I'll be back.
There you go, right? It's the number one line of Schwarzenegger. Everybody knows it. And everybody thinks they can do an Arnold impersonation. Now,
okay, hold on, Chad. Before we dive into this, really quick, we're going to wrap the Well series up on Friday.
That's right? The plan.
So if you're listening to this live or kind of like on the fly, it's a Monday, or maybe you get into this on Tuesday or whatever. The next episode of the podcast will be the finale of the Well series.
Correct.
That you guys have gone through 15 episodes. I think you're probably ready for it to be over and ready for us to give away some money. And so we'll be announcing in that next episode when the live shot will be, right? So I just wanted everybody to know that's coming. Today though, we're going to dive in. What are we going to talk? We're just going to talk about his movies, Arnold movies. My favorite is Twins.
That's a great one. That is a great one, right? I mean, you got Commando, Predator, Terminator, of course.
Look, those are all classics from my youth.
Right. No, we're not going to talk about him as the governor. We're not going to talk about him as an actor. We're not going to talk about, we will talk a little bit about who he is, but we're going to talk about Arnold's 6 keys of success.
Okay.
So he's a successful guy. I mean, Bob, when I was doing my research on him, I found out he's the youngest Mr. Olympian ever. He broke that record when he won it when he was 23, and nobody has beaten that yet. He is, I think it's a 6 or 7-time Mr. Olympian, which is the most that's out there. He is the GOAT when it comes to bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Right? We could talk about Brady. We could talk about Jordan. We could talk about whoever. He is the GOAT when it comes to this. And look what he's turned it into, whether it was a governor, whether Ronald Reagan had him where he was, I don't remember what the title was, but he was the physical fitness advisor.
The czar of the physical fitness.
Yeah, the czar was the term they were using back then on everything. Right. So I was doing some research on him and he has his 6 keys of success. And we wanted to talk about these today so that folks, you understand Win, Make, Give, when Ben created it, was health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. And while we have given you the Wealth series, we are so much more. Bob, we've had over 1 million downloads on all of our episodes. I mean, well over 1 million downloads. We don't talk about that number because that's a thing for us, right? That's not for our audience. We appreciate that you've been with us. And for some of you, the Well series is your introduction to us. We hope you'll scroll back, find some great episodes, or at least stay tuned and get episodes like this where we're going to bring you tips for success in other areas of your life. Bob, you ready to get into this Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I mean, I've never seen this list before. So much like always, you've done the research and I'm just coming in cold here, but let's do it, bud.
That's what makes it fun. All right. Tip number 1. And if I could do a really good Arnold, I would do it, right? Trust yourself.
That's pretty good, Chad. That was pretty good.
I had to get bigger when I did it. I don't know if you saw that, Bob. I had to muscle it.
You puffed it up. And
yes. All right. It's trust yourself. You have an idea. You already have a goal in mind. Don't lose sight of it and know that the only way it's going to happen is that you trust in yourself to get it done. Bob, what's your thoughts on tip number 1?
I think self-doubt is, look, I still today, I know Ben struggles with this, right? we call it the drunk monkey, right? That the thing that sits on your shoulder and whispers in your ear, like, you're not good enough to do that. You can't. Are you sure that's even a good idea? Or I think like just that fortitude, that internal, that drive, that trust in yourself is as big a part of success as any. And we've all heard the term like fake it till you make it, or right. That's all about like the idea that like, look, I haven't done it yet, but I know I can. Right. I know I can. Doesn't surprise me that somebody like him who just, moved, I think he moved to the States and could barely speak English.
Correct.
Like at the time he moved here, but he had this like this just inherent trust that if he was going to put his mind to something, he could go out and do it. And look, here's the reality. I tell my kids this all the time. Like when you go out into that world, like your mom and I here, we got your back, but nobody else does, right? Like when you go into the world, like you have to rely on yourself, and it starts with kind of trusting that you have the skill or that you have the prowess to be able to go do whatever it is that you're looking to do. So I love this first rule, Chad.
Bob, when I hear the word trust, and people always say, how do you develop trust? How do you create trust? Trust is built on consistency. Because when I know what I'm going to get from you, I can now trust in you, right? I can trust that you're going to be here for our calls. I can trust that once a month you're not, right? I can trust. I can trust in things that Nita's going to do. I can trust in things. And to trust in yourself means you have to show that consistency, right? If I fall back and you catch me once, great, we did a trust fall. That doesn't mean you're going to catch me the next time. It's consistency that develops trust. So to me, what I hear in this by trusting yourself is you have to build consistent routines and habits, because that's going to be how you can trust in yourself to get where you're going. So are you creating those routines so that you can rely on yourself to show up when it's needed?
One of our good partners in our world, Chris Suarez, he talks about this idea that we're all promise keepers. And one of the ways that you build trust in yourself is when you make a promise to yourself, you keep that promise. Or when you make a promise to somebody else, when you keep that promise, it starts to establish that idea of trust in them. So it's consistency, it's making promises and then doing those things for yourself. Absolutely. Love it. Trust yourself, number one.
Trust yourself is rule one. All right, number two, here I go. Break the rules, right? You got to break the rules. Bob, you got to break rules for those who can't translate my bad Arnold impersonation, right? We're not talking about breaking laws. Let's be really clear, listeners, right? We're talking breaking what's expected, the status quo, that kind of established thing that says this is how you do it, because there are so many rules that just restrict us from getting where we're going. We have to know when we can break the rules.
Chad, look, I love this one. I think that Ben Kinney is a habitual. I wish he'd phrased it a little bit different. There's a great book called The Captain Class, written by a guy named Sam Cooke. And in that book, he talks about the idea that all these great captains always played in the gray area of the rules. Really for me, I think one of the very first times this happened in my career, and it's really led to everything else in my career, to be quite honest. We were one of the first people, and this is a little bit technical and nerdy and weird, but I'm going to tell the story anyway. Way back in like 2001, in the real estate industry, their listings were not on the internet. Okay. Right. There were some websites like a Windermere and a John L. Scott up here in Washington State where you could go to their website and you could give them all their information. And then once you logged into their website, and today this is kind of silly, then you could see the listings. Well, our team, our company, we were like, you know what? It kind of looks like that in the rules. I can see why they're doing it that way, but we're going to do it a little bit different. We're just going to show everything to everybody. And if they want some information about one of those properties, then they can reach out to us. So we played in that gray area of the rules, and it literally became the foundation for a business that we would sell for millions of dollars years later. And really was like kind of this first, for me, like this, it just was a rocket ship for our careers, because we were willing, and look, it could have been because we were dumb and young and dumb and we didn't know any better, right? But we were willing to get into that gray area and kind of break the rules that the other people were playing by, even though those weren't really the rules. Like, it would come out and basically the whole industry would turn into what we had done first, but we were willing to be the first ones to go do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go back in time for even my age, right? And that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who came out with the skyhook, right? Put
Yeah.
into your world of basketball here. I mean, he was like, okay, nobody did a shot like that, right? Until he said, well, wait a minute. You can't, you block this, you block that, you get in the way of this. But if I do this, there's no way you can block this shot. And he became, well, now he's the second greatest scorer of all time, but he became one of the greatest of all time basketball players because he broke the rules. He didn't break the rule.
But he
He
did
just
it
said, hey,
different than everybody had ever done it
nobody's
before.
done this, and I'm going to do this because it's going to work. It's going to be different. And you're right.
Ben's a master at this. Ben is a master at this. I think he's constantly in the gray areas of the rules.
If we changed success tip number 2 to ask for forgiveness, not permission, it might not sound as bad, right? So rule number 2, break the rules. Okay, rule number 3, don't be afraid to fail. Okay, so don't be afraid to fail because failure is necessary. Right? We have to fail to know. I mean, coming from Arnold, who's, again, the greatest bodybuilder of all time, he would tell you, you lift to failure because that's when the muscle really gets torn. That's when the muscle does its building. If you asked Muhammad Ali when he was working out, how many push-ups do you do? He says 9 or 10. And people will be like, 9 or 10? He goes, yeah, but I don't start counting until I'm almost failing. Then he does 9 or 10. So it could be 109 or 10 basically for him. Bob, what's your take on don't be afraid to fail?
I mean, look, I learned this lesson really early on. One of our our second business venture. So we had the real estate company where we broke the rules to kind of, or we played in the gray area. And then we had this idea. We were going to build this software and everybody was going to use it, Chad. And it was going to be the most amazing thing ever. We were going to give it away for free. But if we could get everybody to use it, it was going to be great. And we launched it. We couldn't even get people in our own company to use it. It was a total failure. Like an absolute failure. And we could have just been like, you know what? Scrap it, right? We put a bunch of money in that. It failed. But we re-architected it. We were like, okay, we failed there. How can we, make a little pivot in this thing? And Chad, you know what that pivoted into, one of the most successful kind of real estate platforms from 2006 to 2014 or whatever. Had a really good 8-year run where there was, hundreds of thousands of people that used this thing. And, but it was it was born out of a failed project. But I think of Ben and his, he used to know that, he knew exactly how many calls it would make him to set an appointment. And he took the approach that all of those other ones that failed before he got to the one, he just knew I got 50 times I'm going to fail until I find that 51st person that's willing to go on an appointment with me. But he got really comfortable with failing 51 times, right? He just knew he had to get 50 no's to get a yes.
Yep.
Failure, I think, and embracing it and learning. Look, failing and then doing the same thing over again, I think that's called insanity or something.
Yes.
But failing and learning from it and trying again, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't wish anybody my path, right, of failure that's happened. Yet thankfully, I had the mindset of don't be afraid to fail. So when my first marriage failed, it wasn't like, okay, I'm never going to get married again. It was, what did I learn from this so I have a better marriage? When I went bankrupt, right, what did I learn from that? When I lost everything, what did I learn from that? And I didn't just sit there and wallow in self-pity and say, well, I failed. It was, no, I've learned from it. How have I turned my life? How can I take those lessons? Folks, we're all going to fail. It doesn't matter. You will fail. The question is, do you look at a failure and say, I've learned, I move on, so it's not truly a failure? Or do you look at a failure as the ending?
It's funny. You dealt with your failure a little bit more head on. You declared bankruptcy. I just hid from the financial system for 10 years until all that shit was off my credit. Seriously,
not part of the wealth series there, folks. That was not the wealth series.
Yeah, it was horrible. I never should have got to that position, but I did it because I didn't have the wealth series and I spent everything I'd ever made. And yeah, anyway, but look, most greatness comes out of some kind of failure. Ben was, I forget, minus $500,000 net worth, right? Because he thought he was a real estate investor and he failed. Yeah.
Okay. Number 4. I'm not going to do it in the voice. Never listen to the naysayers.
I don't know if it counts if you don't do it in the voice.
Come on. Never listen to the naysayers.
You're so good at that. You're getting really, really good, Arnold.
I'm practicing my Arnold here. All right. So never listen to the naysayers, folks, right? there's always, this does not mean surround yourself with yes people,
Sure.
right? The old saying, the yes man, right? Don't surround yourself with people that are just yes, yes, yes. But don't listen to the person who's saying that's impossible. You can't do that, because everything was impossible at some point, right? And somebody did it. So never listen to the naysayers. I'm adding in on 4B on this, yet don't surround yourself with yes people.
Chad, eh, look, naysayers, I put criticism kind of into a similar vein. Like some of the one company, it was called Active Rain, there used to be so many naysayers and critics. And in the beginning, it drove me nuts. Like I wanted to defend us against everybody. And like one day, I remember exactly where I'm sitting. My partner, Jonathan, I was like hot. I'm like, they're saying this. And he's like, listen, if they weren't talking about us, we'd be doing then who cares? But we're doing something right if they're talking about us, man. Right. And
That's right.
ever since then, I was able to take those naysayers and use it as fuel for myself, actually. I'm I'm going to show them, right? We're going to show them. And, once you show a couple of naysayers and you get that confidence in yourself and all of a sudden you trust yourself, right? Yeah. The naysayer, we call it the drunk monkey. Again, it's sitting on you. Sometimes it's yourself, right? You're your own naysayer.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and maybe one of the hardest places to be, Chad, is that naysayer is somebody close to you. It's a spouse potentially, right? Or it's a parent or something, right? And that can be really, really hard. But again, if you've got a goal, right? You put a plan together to go achieve that goal. That naysayer, it's not their life, right? They're not the one putting the risk out there. They're not the one educating themselves and following the plan, right? Naysayers can be just a total wrecker of dreams, right?
And Bob, you said it really well, right? That it could be those people closest to you. But if we go back and look at rule 1, which is trust yourself, right? And then we look at rule 3, which was don't be afraid to fail. Don't worry about what the naysayers are saying. Go prove them wrong. And if they're right, then great. They get to be right if it truly was something that could not be done for one reason or another. But if you trust in yourself, you'll find a way to get it done. We know you will, whatever that is. That's Bob and I putting our financial worlds back together, right? That's other things that we've all been able to overcome, that there were people at one point that said, no, it'll never work. You could never do it. All right, Bob, number 5. I think this one's almost a obvious one, yet I love that he adds this in here, and that's work hard, right? So you've got to work hard, because nothing comes easy, right? There are certain things that sure might come easier to you than they do to me, or to me than they do to you. Yet we don't count easy. We have to work hard at getting things. No one just sits there and ends up becoming the leader of this, or making the wealth they want for that, or generating the health, the physique that Arnold had, right? I mean, you don't get that by being easy. You've got to work hard.
Chad, now totally agree, right? I mean, I think we've been collected a crew of people that really are dedicated and work hard. It's a lot easier when you kind of buy into the mission.
Yes.
Right. You actually enjoy what we're doing, and it makes you want to work hard because there's a goal. And here's the one thing I would say about working hard. And I was trying to find the episode number, and I'm not sure. You're always really good at this stuff. There's one episode we did. It might have been episode 23 in season 1, was working with a sense of priority, where Ben talks about the idea of the importance of priorities and really kind of attacking your day, working hard, but working on the right things, right? So I would encourage you to go back. I believe it's episode 23, all the way back in season 1, and it's Work with a Sense of Priority is the title of that one. You could Google it if you wanted, Win, Make, Give, Priority. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to have to show up and work hard if we want to have a legacy, if we want to build something great, if we want other people to join us in that journey. Because the people that join us, they're going to look to us and say, what do we got to do to get on this journey? Wow, we got to work hard, but we got to work on the right things.
Yes.
Chad. Simply showing up each day and working hard, that'll get you somewhere. But if you want to go really far, you got to show up and work hard on the right things.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bob. And let me give you another point that Arnold says in this work hard rule. And again, if you tie it to his bodybuilding world that he came out of, where he probably created these rules for himself, obviously he would work hard, right? I mean, he would lift as heavy as he could possibly lift to bulk the muscles up and do that. Yet muscle growth truly happens when you're resting. Right? If you just keep doing bicep curls all day, your biceps won't actually get bigger. You need to give the tendons and the muscles the time to repair themselves from the damage you're doing so that they grow and they get bigger and bigger, knowing what's coming. So he says working hard is extremely important, and that's why it's the heading. Yet relaxation time is just as important because it's during those moments when we actually get the recovery to go back and be able to work harder when we get back into it.
Now, well, listen, Chad, Arnold was talking about in here that it's important. Like, right, relaxation is important for the reasons that you just talked about, right? It allows us to kind of, in bodybuilding, for the muscle to actually rebuild itself and get stronger. And I think the same thing with your mind, right? If you're somebody that a lot of your work, that hard work is done with your mind, that relaxation time gives you the chance to kind of repair the mind and put it in a place where you can now come back and work harder again. But at the same time, Kobe Bryant to me is there's an interview with Kobe Bryant. It's a great interview where he talked about the idea of that extra half hour that he would get in the gym every day over everybody else, right? Over time became this massive advantage for him because he worked just a little bit harder than everybody else every day, right? Every day he put in that little bit of extra work that compounded, and that's something out of the wealth series, right? That doesn't just happen, by the way, with your money. It happens with your knowledge, right? It happens with
muscle growth.
Your muscle growth happens with your work. Like if you're in any kind of a business that has a database, that idea of showing up to it every day with just a little bit more effort each day can compound over a period of time. I just you know who Ed Milet is? Super. I just saw him do a keynote speech about one more.
I always said plus one. He says
one more,
just one more,
just
right?
One more, right? Just one more call, just one more, whatever it is, right? Compounds over a long period of time. The greats, all of the greats, and I've been close to some people that nobody would call a great, but like I was friends with a guy who made it to the NBA for 13 years. He's a little 6'1" white guy. Like just as you look at him, like not the persona of somebody who would be in the NBA, but this guy, he always had put in an extra half hour of everybody else for his entire life, working hard on the right things, right? But that extra time he put in compounded over a career, and he spent 13 years, made $76 million in the NBA. Like, work hard, for sure.
He wealth built. All right. So let's go over these again, Bob, just so our audience has them. There's one more. Okay. So there's trust yourself, break the rules, don't be afraid to fail, never listen to the naysayers, work hard, and then this last one. And Bob, at the end, I'm going to have a trivia question for you. We're gonna put you on the spot and see if you can get this one. But number 6, give back. Right now, I mean, he might as well be speaking to win, make, give, right? And do good, right? I mean, that's what we say. We got to give back. This morning, Bob, I opened up Instagram. I have a few minutes that I like to look at Instagram in the morning and just see what's going on. I don't follow a lot of people, so I'm getting exactly what I want to see. And the first thing that came up was a video montage of Usain Bolt, fastest man alive, right? Giving gratitude to people. And it was just before every race. He was fist bumping the person who was picking up his stuff that he puts down at the starting line, or he was fist bumping somebody, or he was shaking someone's hand that was just working at the track or whatever it was. It was taking that time to give back, right? Arnold gave back. I mean, how do we know? I mean, he ended up being the czar, as we said, of, physical fitness for our country. He gave back and all that. And that's going to bring us gratitude, which is going to give us energy, which is going to allow us to do the first 5 things at an even higher level.
I mean, look, I don't know. Maybe this comes from my mom, and my mom was both of my parents were like volunteer firefighters when I was a young kid because we lived in a small community that didn't have a fire department. And that idea of giving back is, I don't know, maybe it was bred into me or something, or this podcast is that, right? I think of like we did a thing called Rain Camp that really was, I don't know, we had people paid to come to it so that we could pay for the venue to be there. But like that was Ben going and essentially sharing all of the business tactics that had made him pretty successful even back then in 2009 and 10 with anybody that was willing to show up and listen to these things. He was like, here's what I'm doing in my business. And it was about giving back. And what you realize or what you come to learn when you're giving back is a lot of times those things come back to you, even though you shouldn't necessarily be giving back with an expectation that things will come back to you. But the world has a funny way of working, Chad. And when you give back, the opportunities and the come around is very commonplace.
Absolutely, Bob. And it's the energy. Now, audience, what we want you to understand is that's what we attempt to do each and every day when we get together to record. It's give back, right? We are taking our time, our effort, our research and stuff to give back to each and every one of you because we want to. Bob and I got where we are today, and Ben, of course, because of others. So it's our time to pay it forward or give back, whichever term you want better, right? So that we can give to you so that you can now take and you can go give to others. So we really hope that you understand that episodes like this are what Win, Make, Give is doing all the time. We are focused on your health, your wealth, your leadership, and the legacy you are going to be leaving and doing good. And Bob, I don't know off the top of my head, Dave's the guy with the magic number. I think this is like episode 271 that we've been doing for people or something like that. So folks, believe me, if you just got here for the Wealth Series, there is a plethora, I love that word, a plethora of fun episodes, great episodes, informative episodes for you to scroll back to. And we will continue to bring you.
There's even two episodes back there that are totally useless. They're just totally useless, Chad. I think one of them's about our pet peeves.
Our pet peeve episode. I knew you were going to say that one. Probably one of my favorites.
Don't get me wrong, fun for us, but totally useless.
And the other, Bob?
I don't know. It's in there somewhere. There's got to be another one. There's got to be another one.
And then we've got some great interviews back there, right? I mean, there have been some fantastic interviews with some Olympians, with some authors, some amazing people.
Joe DeSena, the founder of Spartan Race.
Yes, one of my favorites still is the interview with Joe. All right, Bob, here's my question. And I'm going to ask you to give a second because I want the audience to be able to play along. Okay? So just yell it out, everybody. Not that I... Other than the Terminator movies. Okay, so don't count the Terminator series.
Okay.
How many other movies has Arnold said, I'll be back? Insert Jeopardy music here. No, I'm not giving Dave a note, folks. I'm just telling all of you to start singing the Jeopardy song. All right. They've all yelled their answers by now, Bob. Can you tell me, other than the Terminator series, because it's said in every Terminator movie by someone, not always by Arnold, how many other movies did Arnold say, I'll be back in?
I think he said it in Kindergarten Cop, so it's at least one. I'm going to guess 3. I have no idea, but 3 is my guess.
Okay. The answer, according to some quick research here, is 4. There are 4 other movies that Arnold has said, I'll be back in. And those are Commando, The Running Man, Twins, and Last Action Hero. And I believe Total Recall, it might be in there. I think I can hear him saying it in Total Recall, which might be missing from this list. So many. Now, folks, you might not know him for I'll Be Back. I don't know why, but you definitely know him for Hasta la vista, baby. All right. And that's what we love here at Win, Make, Give, folks. We're not only going to bring you some great information, we're going to have some fun doing it. So make sure you join us in our Facebook group, Win, Make, Give, where we're going to continue the conversations for the Wealth Series. We're going to continue the conversations for other topics as well for you. Make sure you subscribe so you get every episode when they come to you. Make sure you're not missing out, and make sure you're sharing these. Make sure you're letting everybody know there's more than the Wealth Series, folks. These guys are going to bring you value twice a week. That's what we're doing right now. We're bringing you value twice a week. That'll give you enough time to hear it. Now, Bob, talk about the Wealth Series. Let them know what's still coming in the world of the Wealth Series.
All right. So it's Friday. We're going to drop the conclusion. Essentially, we're going to wrap it up.
Yes, it's called Commitment. Wealth Series 17, Commitment.
Okay. And then in that episode, we're going to give the audience the date of the live call. We're going to do a live kind of Zoom call where you and Ben and I, we might bring a guest or two in. And then we're going to give some money away, I think. So based on
win the money, Bob, how do they be eligible to win the money?
Okay. They have to have been following along. Okay. And by the time we do that, they'll have to submit, and there'll be a little way you can submit stuff. They're going to have to submit the answers basically to all of the questions out of the workbook. So each workbook each week has had a question at the end.
The homework question at the end, not all the questions, just that homework one.
And so we're going to, I believe in Friday's episode, give you guys the path that you can go to submit the answers that you've been accumulating. And then in that live call where we'll announce the date on Friday's episode, we'll randomly pick some folks to win some prizes and some money. And it kind of stinks because I thought we were getting paid for this, Chad, but Ben decided to give all of our paycheck away to the audience, which is fine. Which is fine, right? But they're only going to be able to have a chance to win it if they've been following along and they've been doing that homework question at the end of each workbook.
Yeah, and you're going to have the correct answer because, folks, we are actually going to have the team going through all the submissions. It's going to be a lot. All the submissions, and only correct answers will get moved into the.
And if you can't find the correct answer, don't tag Chad on Facebook.
No.
He will not give it to you. I will at least tell you where in the episode you can find it.
Yes, that's Bob is much nicer than I am. For those of you who have been asking that you can't find an answer, I promise you, they are all in there. It means listen again. If you tag Bob, maybe he'll narrow it down to a 3 or 4 minute range for you, and then I'll yell at Bob for it. Folks, we are just here to have some fun, to give back to you, to help educate, help you grow so that you have better health, better wealth, better leadership, and you leave an even bigger legacy behind. Until our next episode, as always, do good,